Your ABC News.
Listen at 610 AM, 102 FM.
I listen, therefore I know.
Online at kvnutalk.com and on the KVNU mobile app.
I listen on the app.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Northern Steel Buildings. If you're affiliated with a political party in Utah and you want to switch parties in order to vote in the 2022 primary election, your deadline, well, it's today. It's a new deadline this year. Previously, voters were able to switch party affiliations right up until the day of the primary election. The law was changed after Representative Jordan Tusher, Republican from South Jordan, introduced legislation to limit what he calls party rating. In Utah, the Republican primary is a closed primary, meaning only registered Republicans can participate. Some have advocated for Democratic voters to switch their political party affiliation in order to participate in the process. Others take issue with Tusher's description of party rating. Skylar Westerdahl is a self-described progressive who has historically been affiliated with the Democratic Party. He switched his party affiliation to Republican 2 years ago because of the political realities in Utah. He said he knows Republicans are likely to win in the state, and he wants more of a say in who is chosen. KVNU News Time is 5:06. KVNU weather for tonight, partly cloudy skies, overnight low in the upper 20s. Sunny to partly cloudy on Friday, mid-50s for the high, and then partly cloudy, lower 60s on Saturday. Today's high has been 50. It's 50 degrees right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Whole Tree Care. Right now is the best time to get your trees and shrubs trimmed. Visibility is perfect right now, so do it before they leaf out. Call 760-6587. Whole Tree Care has a certified arborist and best cleanup crew around.
The planet Earth has been rotating around the sun for 4.5 billion years. Since the dawn of man, we have been crafting and refining tools to dig into the Earth's surface.
Me dig. Me tired.
But it wasn't until today that digging could be so much fun.
Me digging this.
Northern Steel Buildings will dig for you. Have them build you a hay barn, shop, warehouse, or if it's time to expand your business with a new facility, they'll move the earth around to make it happen. See their work online at northernsteelbuilding.com.
KVNU News Time is 5:07. A benefit concert on Friday night at 7 in the Logan High Auditorium will be a benefit for the high school theater department. The title is Broadway Benefit. And on KVNU's For the People program on Wednesday, Jared Rounds from the Logan High Drama Department told us who it will feature.
So this particular concert is Casey Elliott, if you know the band Gentry, which is a Utah band, but it's a trio of tenors, but they've sung all over the world. Actually, Casey is coming up to Logan High School with some of his friends that have been on Broadway, and they're going to perform an evening of musical theater songs for us, as well as some of our Logan High School theater students will be on stage with them.
The friends include special guests Brad Robbins from Gentry, Shay Robbins, and Megan Heaps. Heaps is returning to Cache Valley, where she graduated from Skyview High School and has recently performed at the Hale Center Theater. For 3 years, she was the lead female vocalist on Holland America Cruise Line and Royal Caribbean Cruise Line. Locally, she played Donna in the Lyric Repertory's production of Mamma Mia. Round says that they have more productions, too, waiting in the wings.
Playing at the end of April, April 21st through the 25th is our spring play. It's called The Man Who Came to Dinner. It's a very funny comedy about a radio personality who comes to do kind of a benefit in Ohio, and he slips on the front steps of his host family, and he makes their lives miserable for the next 2 weeks while he's there. And then next year we have our season ready to go. So in November we'll be doing the musical Big Fish.
For ticket information and more information, visit loganhigh.org. The Idaho Senate has failed to override Republican Governor Brad Little's veto of legislation making it illegal for most businesses to require the coronavirus vaccine. The Senate did not muster the two-thirds majority necessary today to keep alive the Coronavirus Pause Act. The vote was 21-14. The legislation would have made public and private employers subject to a misdemeanor charge punishable by a $1,000 fine if they require vaccines as a condition of employment or service. It included exemptions for situations involving federal law, existing employee-employer contracts, and businesses that receive Medicare and Medicaid funding. KBNU News Time is 5:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Local talk. Afternoons at 4 with For the People.
Dr. Josh Red, chiropractic physician, explains how Red River Health and Wellness can help you.
If you have low thyroid and you're taking thyroid medication, the biggest question you should ask yourself is what's causing my low thyroid specifically? If you don't know the answer to that question, it's important to call us. At Red River, we identify triggers that will cause the low thyroid to begin with. One of the most common causes of low thyroid is a disease called Hashimoto's disease. This is an autoimmune disease that is a lot more complicated than just a primary thyroid issue. This is why people will be on thyroid hormone but still feel little to no improvement because nothing's being done to address the bigger, more complicated problem, which is Hashimoto's. If you have low thyroid or you have an autoimmune disease and you're on medication and still don't feel well, call Red River.
Schedule your appointment today at 855-55-RIVER. Red River Health and Wellness with offices in Logan, South Jordan, Springville, and St. George.
Call Red River today.
West Liberty Foods in Tremonton is excited to announce that they've increased their starting wages to $17 per hour for general production and to $19 per hour for machine operators and forklift operators. A shift premium is added on for the second shift of $1.50 per hour. West Liberty Foods offers paid vacations, attendance rewards, 401k, medical, dental, and vision insurance. Looking for part-time work? Pick the days you'd like to work. Call West Liberty Foods at 435-207-7000 to speak with a recruiter today.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. We were going to, I'm saying this as a form of promo, but it's also a form of disappointment. We're going to be talking about audits today. Schedule-wise, it just did not work out, so we're going to have to postpone that and talk in the future with Cache County Clerk and Auditor Jess Bradfield. I love audits. I think they are useful. I think they should be done regularly. I think the people that get upset about audits are telling on themselves, and that can be useful as well. And I think it's one of the most underused but most useful tools, especially in local governments. So I'm excited that we have a Cache County Clerk and Auditor that has remembered auditor as a part of the job. And there are some new audits that have been conducted of county services and county government. But we're going to have to postpone that conversation into next week due to scheduling conflicts. So, unfortunately, that does mean that we have time for this question that's been burning in my mind for quite some time because I don't know where I fall on this. And so it just keeps popping up in my head again. You heard a news story during the top of the hour news there with Bill reading a story about Representative Jordan Tusher and this idea of people switching their registration to another party to influence the nomination or primary results of that party, but they fully plan to switch their registration back in the general election. And the question around that is it ethical? We know it's legal. You can do whatever you want with your registration. It's nobody's business, really. So it's not a question of legality, although some lawmakers have grumbled about making this illegal. I guarantee you that would be found unconstitutional by every court that saw it. This is one of the few times that lawmakers actually listen to that advice from their own legal counsel and didn't try to run these laws. But there was talk for a while of if someone switches their party registration, they're then locked in for a year to discourage people who are just switching for the primary. Here in Utah, this isn't unique to Utah, by the way. It's only unique to states that hold closed primaries of any sort. Closed primaries invite this type of thing, honestly. Well, I guess so do open primaries, but you don't have to switch your registration to vote in those primaries. You just request that ballot. To the question of if it's legal, it is legal. And it should not be made illegal. I don't think we should go there. To the question of whether it's ethical or not, it depends, really. Because I've known people to switch, and I've known people from both parties here in Utah, both Republicans who have switched to Democratic Party registration for a primary, and Democrats who have switched to Republican registration for a primary, who have done so just to cause trouble. In fact, I know a couple of Democrats who have switched their registration to Republican just to vote for the most out there candidate, because they, in their opinion, feel like that's the best way to influence things here in Utah by making the opposition party elect a lunatic. I guess it could be a long game strategy, but it's also risky because you're electing a lunatic. So I do know people. I know some folks who have switched their registration to the Constitution Party just so they'd get Constitution Party communications because they were curious what this party is about and why they're still around. I know a lot of folks who during certain times of election cycles of people who are libertarian minded but are realistic about the near invisibility of the Libertarian Party. They have switched their registration to Libertarian in order to play a part in nomination contests here in the state or nationally, because it's a small party. Oftentimes, being registered as a Libertarian you can have a big voice in that party, at least, and who they nominate for even president. And then they switch back to either unaffiliated Republican or Democrat here in Utah in order to be registered as they choose. So people do this for a lot of different reasons. The reason I say, to the question, is it ethical? The reason my opinion is it depends. I don't think it's ethical to switch. It shouldn't be illegal, again. No one should be banned or barred from doing this. If they want to do it, it is their right, and it should remain their right. But my personal opinion is it's dirty pool to switch your registration just to meddle. I think that's I don't like it. It shouldn't be illegal. Maybe we shouldn't even judge those who have done it, but I don't think it's ethical to do that. If a person, though, is switching their registration to a party they don't plan to long-term belong to in order to have a voice in a primary, or even if it's just to stop a certain candidate they absolutely loathe, I think that's both obviously legal, as we've discussed, but I also think that's ethical. I think, if you live in a state, you have to be realistic about the politics of the state you live in. And so whether it's a red state or a blue state, because, again, this isn't a Utah thing. This happens in blue states where you have Republicans who register as Democrats during primary contests because they want a voice. And they know that the state is so blue that in the general election, the Republican, it's going to be 60-30 or 60-40 like it is here in Utah, and the Republican voice is going to not decide things because it's such a blue state. That's how Democrats here in Utah feel. They feel that, it's a given who's going to win the general election. If there's a Republican and a Democrat only on the ballot, the Republican's going to win That might change in 10 years slowly as population changes and city concentrations of population move, beyond Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County. You're going to see areas like Weber County and even larger parts of Cache County than already are go blue, quote unquote, and that's going to complicate things for Republicans. You're going to see Republicans that have never had to actually campaign have to campaign. They're still going to win over the next 10 years, but towards the latter part of the next 10 years, they're going to have to actually campaign. Slogans and bumper stickers aren't going to be enough anymore, and that is going to be healthy. It's going to be good for the system, but we all know who's going to win the general election. And when I say for the next 10 years, that's a guess. It's realistically going to be a long time before Utah's a purple state, and things like this don't even come up. But right now, Utah's a very red state. So like blue states where Republicans do this, I don't have a problem with registered Democrats doing it in a red state. We have this the biggest talk that this is coming out of right now, or the biggest choice that this talk is surrounding right now, is the United States Senate race. Senator Mike Lee's up for re-election. He's surprisingly vulnerable, at least according to the two polls that have been done, one by Hinckley Institute Deseret News and one by Y2 Analytics, and I don't remember. I think it was BYU Politics, anyway, or Political Science. Anyway, two polls have been done. Both have shown Mike Lee not underwater by any means. He's a Republican in Utah, but they've shown him surprisingly vulnerable. Mike Lee doesn't break 50% support in any poll that's ever been conducted throughout his now somewhat lengthy political career. That's something that should scare Lee and his team, but what should give them confidence is still Utah. Odds are always, for the time being, going to be in favor of the Republican on the ballot. Where Lee's being challenged this year, he's got two Republican challengers. He's got two serious. There are other challengers, they're not serious, but two serious challengers. In fact, by the way, this is in the interest of news, just news today. Senator Lee, Alleyism, and Becky Edwards have all submitted the necessary signature, the number of signatures required to be on the ballot. Today was the deadline, and they've all submitted enough. Now, most of them submitted more than enough. That's because a lot of signatures are going to be deemed ineligible. Someone signed, but they're not actually registered. Someone signed, but they put their address wrong, something like that. Either way, a lot of signatures get tossed because they can't be counted, so they always shoot above and beyond the requirement. But all three of them submitted enough more than the requirement that at this point you can go ahead and say there will be three Republicans on the June 28th primary ballot. Senator Mike Lee, challenger Becky Edwards, former state lawmaker, and Alleyism, a newcomer to the election scene, but no newcomer to Utah politics. She'd served with Governor Herbert and even the LDS Church for some time as a communications spokesperson. So none of these people are new. No one has the name recognition of Senator Lee. That's his biggest, the biggest tool in his toolbox. But he's polling at 43% in the latest poll. That means he's vulnerable. Then you have the independent, Evan McMullen, jumping in the race. You, of course, have the Democrat, a man named Kyle Weston. We'll speak with all of them as these races play out, of course, here on the show. The Democrat, though, he's not going to win. Kyle Weston, great guy, very smart guy, experienced guy, qualified for United States Senate, I would say. He's not going to win. It's Utah. The big question then, two questions. Who is the Republican nominee? If Becky Edwards or Alleyism beat Mike Lee in the primary, I would say this race, Evan McMullen at that point is basically an afterthought, though he'll keep campaigning because that's what he'll have to do. He's not even going to place. He'll be in the teens at most. And you're going to see the race break down in a very traditional RD split, which is usually 60-40 with Evan McMullen in the race. He's going to steal some from the Republican, but not enough to cause the Democrat to win. And he won't win himself. If Senator Lee manages to hang on to the nomination, which he will at convention, but again, the real decision is going to be made on June 28th in the primary of registered Republicans. If Senator Lee is on the ballot, then it's a bit more of an unknown, I think, for the independent and the Democrat, because, again, Lee is vulnerable, whereas a new Republican would just be a clean slate, not vulnerable. So I think that's really the key deciding factor in all of this as far as whether or not it matters. But the reason I point all this out is because you don't know what the effect of, say you have a whole bunch of Democrats registering as Republicans in order to vote in this primary. One, again, that's perfectly legal. Two, I think it's ethical. If you're in a red state and want to have a voice, this is the only way. If you're in a blue state as a Republican and want to have a voice, same thing applies. And I think people that want to do that, more power to them. Unless, again, you're doing it just to meddle, at which point you're a bad person, I think. But if you're doing it to have a voice, that's what all this is about. So register as you choose and switch it back as you choose. Whether you're a Republican in a blue state or a Democrat in a red state, it shouldn't matter. That said, I don't know that. So obviously, if Democrats are registering as Republicans to vote in this primary, I'm assuming then Democrats would prefer anyone but Mike Lee as the nominee. The irony of that is these Democrats will then switch their registration back. And again, I think the strongest Republican out of this would be the Republican without a track record. Senator Lee's polling in this latest poll, Deseret News and Hinckley Institute have him at 43%. That's beatable in Utah. It's still an uphill battle because it's Utah, but it's possible, which is not for the Democrat, but for an independent like Evan McMullin, Senator Lee is vulnerable. So for Democrats, long game, they'd actually be smarter to register in this primary and vote for Senator Lee because he'd be the most vulnerable candidate running against an independent, which for Democrats you'd think would be a step above a Republican in the next Senate. Because it'd at least be a possible flip vote on certain issues, right? Thinking long game here again. But instead, what Democrats who are registering as Republicans are going to do, they're going to vote for Allyism or Becky Edwards. The Edwards and Ism campaigns have actually invited that. They've said they want everyone to have a voice in this primary because everyone's a Utahn. And that's cool that they're saying that. But I do think that it's strange Democrats might be mostly on board with that. I doubt they're registering as Republicans to vote for Lee. And then if they were to get the nomination for Becky Edwards or Allyism, Becky Edwards or Allyism would wipe the floor with both the Democratic Party nominee Kyle Weston and Evan McMullin because they're new. They don't have a track record. They don't have anything you can really attack them on. So it becomes a traditional Republican versus Democrat with an independent thrown in there just for fun, I guess. And at that point, the Republican walks away with it with at least a 20-point margin. So, again, people who are upset Democrats are doing this, don't be so sure that the outcome Democrats want is what's going to happen. People who are doing this, when you hear a state lawmaker like Representative Jordan Tusher say you shouldn't do it, ignore them. Jordan Tusher voted in that special session last week without a public hearing, without hearing from experts. It was a purely political move. He did what he wanted with his vote. You do what you want with your vote. What do you think? There will be proposals in the future to outlaw this type of thing here in Utah. Depending on the outcome of this primary will determine how much energy there is behind those proposals to outlaw this type of registration switching. But again, I think it should be allowed. Whether it's a red state or a blue state, if there are closed primaries, I think you got to let people do what they want with their registration. Otherwise, I think you're violating the Constitution. 753-5868. We've got a caller on the line, Alan with a comment. Alan, hold tight. We're back right after this.
Hi, everyone. It's Congressman Blake Moore here. My team and I have been working hard to counter Vladimir Putin's war against Ukraine and doing all we can to hold Russia accountable. I've been leveraging my position on the House Armed Services Committee to support lethal aid for Ukraine. I voted to bolster security assistance, improve our cyber capabilities to counter Russia, and support the operations of U.S. troops in Europe. But more must be done, and I am co-sponsoring legislation to impose heavier sanctions on the Russian oligarchy and banks and remove Russia from the UN Security Council. In my role as the lead Republican on the House Natural Resources Oversight and Investigation Subcommittee, I have been working on legislation to enhance American energy production. I joined my congressional colleagues in a bipartisan vote to suspend purchases of Russian oil, and I believe we must do more to impose secondary sanctions on Russian energy imports. replace Russian energy sources with American energy, and approve permits and pipelines to greenlight American exports. Our team is working hard to assist Americans and Ukrainians fleeing attacks. If we can be of help to you or someone you know, please call my Ogden office at 801-625-0107 or visit our website at blakemore.house.gov. Paid for by official funds authorized by the U.S. House of Representatives.
After that long, cold winter, my green grass blades are dingy yellow and smashed down. I need a little help waking up. Oh, and I need help fighting off those pesky weeds. What can I do?
Don't worry, friend. Logan Extermination helps lawns come out of tough winters. And right now, they have a special on pre-emergent and fertilizer application. It'll keep weeds down and green up your grass for only $55. Call Logan Extermination for details. 752-8450. Based on maximum 5,000 square feet.
Asking listeners how they feel about a thing that might be happening, might not be happening. I'm guessing it is happening somewhat. To what extent, who knows? To what outcome, who knows? But big question over, specifically here in Utah in this primary race, Democrats registering as Republicans to influence who gets the nod from the Republican Party in that June 28th primary. A couple of callers lining up here. Alan on the line, been very patient. Alan, thank you for waiting. Your thoughts on this?
Thank you.
Thanks for calling.
Yes, you bet. I'm having this conversation with several people. I lean toward saying that's not something I really agree with. I don't really. It's disingenuous and a little childish to do something to say you're something and then go the other way. But my real reason for calling is to shed a little light, a little insider knowledge on what it is. It's in bigger numbers than you would think.
I wouldn't be surprised.
There's groups of 20, 30,000 member groups that say, who are we voting for? I just registered as a Republican, had to take a shower, and this is what gave us Governor Cox. So if you're pleased with Governor Cox, then by all means encourage Democrats to do this. But if you're not pleased with Governor Cox, then show up and vote in the primary.
That's where I come. That's where I come down to, Alan. One of the reasons I don't object to Democrats doing this is that, Republicans can do the same. Republicans can do it without changing their registration. You can just request a Democratic Party ballot if you want to vote in one of their primaries because they're open. But I feel like the playing field's pretty level. It all said and done, it all comes out in the wash, But yeah, I mean, it does. You touch on something that is concerning to me, Alan, which is I don't know that it's happening yet in Utah, but you do stand one day to have this situation where you basically have these large Facebook groups, for lack of a better example, in which it's so organized and there's so much money behind it, dark money. We don't know who's funding it even, and it could be coming from the left or the right, and they're basically just deciding elections for us. You have these.
Yes,
it could get there.
Lawmaker has a group, and they've discussed who we're voting for in the Republican primary last year.
That's right.
In 2020.
There was even a news report about that.
The Democrats loved Cox. They loved Cox, and it was about 30 or 40,000 group member, and he won by, I don't remember, it was 20 or 30,000 votes. So
sure,
it's in bigger numbers than you want to believe.
Sure. And that could have influenced the outcome. I would guess I don't know anymore, but I would guess in the general election, Democrats were voting for I don't even remember who the Democratic nominee was against Cox. that's how
it was Huntsman and who's the third party? They called him Trump Jr. They hated him that much.
Hughes.
That's why they
Hughes. Yeah.
They called him. So it was we love Cox. We're okay with Huntsman. We do not want Hughes. This huge Facebook group.
Sure.
And I saw it with my eyes. It was the group. It was a 50,000-member group, and I believe they gave us Cox.
It's possible. It was. I mean, he had a decisive win in that primary, and it is definitely a possibility that his majority was, at least a good chunk of it, people who had either been unaffiliated or registered Democrats who then switched to Republican, and influenced that. But I keep coming back to the same thing. I don't know. I feel, Alan, like this is fair. I mean, I don't see...
It's lawful. I agree it's lawful. And if they try to pass a law or make something, they're just going to leave it registered Republican until it turns more purple.
Sure. Yeah, that's one thing. When lawmakers want to try and stop this from happening, I think that's actually going to encourage it more than anything.
Correct, yeah. And then there's Becky Edwards, which is correct. There's a Ruth Bader Ginsburg sign here in Logan, and there's a Becky Edwards sign right next to her. So if you like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, you're gonna like Becky.
I think Becky's going to be interesting because she has a pretty traceable record as a state lawmaker, and so I think with delegates, especially at the upcoming convention, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out because she was popular as a state lawmaker, as a Republican. And I feel like just a little chatter that I'm hearing from Mike Lee's people, I feel like that has them a little skittish. They're a little nervous about that. Ism, I don't think so. But again, I say, if people want to go out and do this, I'm fine with it. What's interesting to me, Alan, is how this might change. And you bring up the most scary part of this for me, the idea that one day you could just have these entities, an LLC or even a nonprofit, and we don't know where their money's coming from, but things are so organized and so online that they could literally direct tens of thousands of people to go vote this way or that way in a state they don't even live in. And then you have this happening on both the left and the right already right now. That does make me nervous. I would like to see us be able to avoid that. So if this goes there, I would be upset. But
that entity lives already.
Sure.
I interviewed a podcast member, and that entity is Google. Can shift votes.
Yeah,
listen to Joe Rogan's podcast. It's awesome.
No, Google can. Facebook can. It's frightening actually. But Alan, appreciate the call. Great insight on this, and always interesting to see what other people think about this. This stuff rattles around in my head. It has since Alan mentioned it there, that primary for governor a couple of years ago, and I go back and forth. And for me, again, it really comes down to what a person's impetus is. If you're doing it just to meddle and muck things up, I don't like that. If you're doing it to have a voice because you know the general election outcome is so predictable, I don't have as much of a problem with that when it comes to people switching their registrations. But Alan pointing something out there, though, this could go someplace very dark. We already have a dark money issue, both on the left and the right, in blue states and red states. And you could see a point where, you literally have these organized networks in which maybe, we'll never know, one person, some billionaire out there is calling the shots and saying, send 20,000 people to nominate this person within this party here in this state. That's possible. We could really get there. That makes me nervous. Alan, appreciate your call. Others out there, 753-5868. Barring calls that keep this conversation going, we are going to talk electric cars on the other side. USU Science Unwrapped is wrapping up, no pun intended, their Science Unwrapped series for the school year with a very special event focused on the electrification of transportation. Everything from light rail systems to roads that are capable of powering electric cars through the roadway. We'll talk about it on the other side of these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time, 5:39. News brought to you by Whole Tree Care. The state is looking at whether to implement an Amber Alert type system to warn Utahns when an earthquake might be imminent. The Utah Geological Survey has begun a study to determine if it is feasible along the heavily populated Wasatch Fault. The system would use the state seismograph networks and be able to provide anywhere from a few seconds up to a minute's notice. Fox 13 reports notices could automatically go to phones or on electronic messaging boards. Even a little heads up could help utilities shut off or transit systems stop to avoid more catastrophic damage. Bill Keach, a state geologist, said the system is being used in Japan, and some western states are looking at using it as well. The Utah legislature funded about $150,000 to determine if it's possible to implement the early warning system. Utah was rattled by the 5.7 Magna earthquake 2 years ago. Keach told Fox 13 that since then, they have recorded around 3,000 small aftershocks tied to the same fault line. A standoff ended without incident on the west side of Salt Lake County after officials said a man held his parents against their will inside their home. West Valley City Police were called out to a home just before 10 a.m. following reports that a 33-year-old adult son was holding his parents against their will. According to police spokesperson Roxanne Vainuku, the parents were able to convince their son to let them leave the house unharmed shortly before police arrived. KUTV reports the parents told police they were held inside the home for almost an hour and their son was armed with a gun. It's not clear what prompted the son to force his parents to remain inside the home, but police were able to set up a perimeter around the home and make contact with the son. Vainuku said that police negotiators spoke with the man for several hours before he agreed to surrender peacefully just after 5 p.m. And Idaho lawmakers have wrapped up this year's legislative session that included passing the state's largest ever income tax cut of $600 million and one of the nation's most restrictive abortion bans. But the Republican-dominated legislature adjourned the 81-day session today without passing any meaningful property tax relief. KBNU News Time is 5:41.
Men, sometimes women drop subtle hints like,
"Hey, honey, the weather sure is nice today."
"Yeah, I think I'll go golfing with the fellas."
Ugh, whatever.
Sometimes we just need more direct language like,
"Honey, call Whole Tree Care to trim and clean up all those gnarly shrubs and dead, twisted branches. I want to enjoy the yard this summer, not dread it."
You know, I was thinking the same thing. Call Hull Tree Care, 760-6587. Ask about their radio discount. They also do tree and stump removal. 760-6587.
KBNU weather for tonight, partly cloudy skies, overnight low in the upper 20s, and then sunny to partly cloudy, mid-50s tomorrow, and then partly cloudy, lower 60s on Saturday. It's been 50 this afternoon for the high. Right now it's 48 at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Roof Rescue. Even if you are denied by your insurance company the first time you receive a quote to fix your roof, a free reevaluation can be made. Visit roofrescueusa.com to schedule your free consultation. That's roofrescueusa.com. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
I don't know how else to say this, Dad, but here it goes. It's time for the famous West Motor Rodeo Day sale.
Wait a minute. What are you talking about, Taylor? Rodeo Days doesn't start until July.
New truck lots across the country are almost empty, right?
You're right.
But here at West Motor, business is booming. So how is West Motor selling so many trucks?
Most of our customers are ordering their truck exactly how they want it. So as soon as the truck hits the lot, they don't let us keep it there for everyone else to look at. They want to take it home. So the best way to buy a new truck during the famous West Motor Rodeo Day sale is to order it right now during Truck Month.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
Plus, trade-in values are at an all-time high. And in many cases, you can buy a brand new truck for less than a used one. We'll include our famous Rodeo Days discounts, a free lifetime warranty, and a free bed liner. Taylor, you're brilliant.
Call, click, or visit West Motor and order your new Ford or Ram truck today. WestMotorCompany.com.
It's spring in Cache Valley, and that means Baby Animal Days 2022. Once Upon a Farm at the American West Heritage Center, March 31st to April 2nd. Come see some furry tales featuring the exotic animals from Utah's petting zoo gone wild. Then April 6th through 9th, come see more than just the 3 bears with baby bear cubs from Yellowstone Bear World. As always, the cute and cuddly baby farm animals are available throughout the event. There'll also be wagon rides, historic demonstrations, food vendors, and other hands-on activities. Daily tickets are limited, so buy yours online today at awhc.org. Special thanks to sponsors Young Automotive, Zions Bank, and the Cache Valley Visitors Bureau. Baby Animal Days at the American West Heritage Center. Don't miss it.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Friday on This Morning, America's First News. The warnings are out. Hear how Russia's invasion of Ukraine is causing concerns about a global food shortage that could hike prices further and potentially lead to a humanitarian crisis in the Middle East. Plus, why Republicans now have the upper hand in the culture wars, and electric scooters are all the rage. Hear how they're being used. Friday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. I want to just give a quick shout out to Johnny, caller just a minute ago, gave us a great idea for an upcoming segment regarding, the debates over the names of things, mountains and streets and universities even. And, where's a line where it's maybe going a little too far, getting a little bit out of hand as far as the time and effort we're spending doing this when we could be doing other things. Great idea for a conversation. We're going to reach out to some folks who would be probably game for this on a future show. So thanks to Johnny for that phone call. Jumping right back in here to our next segment, because I want to get to this. This caught my eye, and I'm a big fan of the series itself. Science Unwrapped is a school year-long series that USU runs, usually on Friday nights, gives people hands-on access to some of the latest research in science coming out of Utah State University. And their final event is coming up this Friday at 7 p.m. at the Emmer Auditorium there in the Eccles Science Learning Center. These are free. They are also streamed live via AggieCast on the Science Unwrapped website. Just do a search for USU Science Unwrapped. You can find that. But the topic this week is interesting because it's one the state legislature just threw a good chunk of money at exploring. And it's the topic of electrifying our transportation, which we already do in a lot of ways. This could be light rail systems. This could be charging stations for electric cars, but more advanced systems like roads that charge electric cars or even buses, even semi-trucks. That technology is being researched and developed at universities all over the country, but USU is also working on that as well. And KVNU's Craig Hislop had a chance to talk with director of Aspire, an organization working on exactly this that will also be the keynote speaker at this Friday's Science Unwrapped event. Craig Hislop spoke with director Reagan Zane.
Well, thank you, Jason. Friday night on the Utah State University campus, those attending Science Unwrapped, it's the Science on the Horizon series is what they call it. They're going to get a lesson in electrified transportation. USU is the site of a National Science Foundation-funded engineering research center known as Advancing Sustainability Through Powered Infrastructure for Roadway Electrification, or Aspire, which is what I'm going to call it from here on out. Aspire Director Regan Zane Friday night is going to share the center's plans, and he's on the line with us now. So, Regan, good to have you with us. Tell us about those plans a little bit.
Well, absolutely, Craig. I appreciate your time, and I'm glad to join you. We will be talking about an exciting topic of the future of transportation, and in our view, the future of electrified transportation. As you mentioned, Aspire is an NSF, National Science Foundation funded research center headquartered right here at Utah State University, involving over 9 universities, both here in U.S. and one international. We have over 60 industry and innovation partners involved in our overall program, and over 300 participants across all of our universities. So on Friday, we're going to talk a little bit of the history. what's brought about this fascination of electrification and what that means for cities, which frankly started in the late 1800s. And we're going to talk about the next major transformation that we see as electric vehicles, both from our small passenger vehicles all the way to our semi-trucks, is really going to transform the landscape of both our roads, our vehicles, and our electric utilities over the next 20 years and beyond.
Well, it's interesting with the way gas prices are going. This certainly makes this topic and the idea of electric vehicles even more attractive.
Absolutely. Of course, gas prices go up and down, and the timing is good for our discussion to raise interest and show the vulnerabilities we have with our economy, and they're tied to gas prices. So yes, that certainly will raise interest here at the moment, and I think we can also talk about kind of the future. How do we ensure that we are more resilient against variability in gas and diesel prices?
Earlier this month, you had a demonstration project with about 50 meters of in-road wireless charging hardware at the test track there up at USU. How did that go?
It's gone very well. Here at USU, we have, as you called, our test track. We call it our electric vehicle and roadway, or EVR facility. We're able to evaluate and characterize and test a whole variety of charging systems and technologies here at our facility. One of those key or cornerstone technologies is wireless charging, and in fact, not only charging wirelessly, but even in motion. And that was the test you're referring to here in our track. We're continuing to expand that. We work with both technologies from here at Utah State, our partners at Purdue University and University of Colorado and University of Auckland and others throughout the center. And we also look at technologies from our industry partners. And in addition to the demonstrations we've run here to date, both coming up this summer and through next year, we'll be evaluating technologies from a company called Electrion and another one called IPT Technologies, and possibly 2 or 3 others that are also developing these core technologies and actually deploying them throughout the world. It's a very exciting time and a great time to come out here and view some of these technologies here in Logan.
Is the idea to install, I guess is maybe not the right word, these in-road wireless charging hardware units all across the nation's highways?
In essence, as crazy as it sounds, what we're really talking about here is a shift from significant cost on vehicle, which is actually quite challenging. Things are expensive and difficult on vehicle because you're very space constrained, you're cost constrained, your vehicle has a relatively short life. We're looking to really move that cost from the vehicle, which is predominantly the battery pack, a long-range battery pack on the vehicle, into long-term infrastructure that's not unique to a single vehicle, but is actually shared not only among many vehicles, but even vehicle classes. Meaning, if we were to, for example, take this technology and apply it across the nation, as you've suggested, along the interstate highways, that infrastructure would be shared and used among our passenger vehicles, our buses, all the way up to our semi-trucks. And that really is an opportunity to bring overall costs down because that infrastructure would be highly utilized, and it would be long-term infrastructure. These are 20 to 40-year life roads as opposed to 5 to 10-year life vehicles in some of those scenarios. That is what we're looking at, and that technology would really apply to these high-density roadways where we have a lot of traffic and where we're looking to handle that long haul, getting from city to city essentially. And then we would look at the combination, a whole host of technologies to manage our operations in and around the cities and in some of our corner cases, like getting the outer reaches of Texas or Montana.
How far away would you say roadway electrification is for this country?
Well, that crystal ball is one we love to look into. Of course, how we really progress, depends a lot on our success in setting the vision and having buy-in both from our communities and society and our industry. That really drives the adoption over time. And what we're going to be talking a little bit about Friday night are what are some of those challenges that could really delay that rollout, and what are the opportunities that could really accelerate it and do it in the right way, do it in a way that brings opportunity to really everyone. We have a roadmap that charts this out. In 10 years, we think it's quite possible. We would see significant transition to electrification in our cities, on the corridors in and around the cities. And this would include an advancement of electric roadways in those scenarios, as well as stationary charging opportunities that could be both wireless and plug-in. And then we see probably in another 10 years, so within 20 years, we could see significant rollout of these technologies in the longer stretches, the longer distances along our interstate highways.
Well, Regan's presentation, Electric Avenues, begins 7 p.m. Friday night, the Emmert Auditorium of the Eccles Science Learning Center. It's free. And by the way, Science Unwrapped is a public outreach program of USU's College of Science as well. I wanted to mention that. But Regan, we appreciate you taking some time to explain this fascinating stuff, and we wish you the best with the presentation, but the future of this work.
We look forward to seeing everyone on Friday. Thank you so much, Craig.
Thank you, Craig and Regan. Again, this is the final for the 2021-2022 school year, at least, the final Science Unwrapped event this Friday, 7 p.m. at the Emmert Auditorium, the Eccles Science Learning Center there on campus. It is free and will be live streaming as well on the USU Science Unwrapped website. Just do a simple search for that. You'll find a discussion about electric cars, electric roadways, the electrification of transportation over the next 20 years and beyond. Science Unwrapped, Electric Avenues, the title of the event, this Friday at 7 p.m. And again, at the Eccles Science Learning Center and streaming online at the Science Unwrapped website. Details on this and more from the interview with Regan Zane, director of Aspire, at CashValleyDaily.com, and we'll be back right after this.
Here's Chad Norton, the lawn doctor, with a tip for your lawn.
With warmer temperatures and no snow on the ground, green grass might be here sooner than ever. We are excited to offer a new 2-service soil enrichment program to improve water retention, reduce compaction, stimulate root growth, and increase nutrient and fertilizer uptake, resulting in a healthier lawn this summer. Sign up early and get the second service half off.
Fertilizer, weed, and pest control. Call the Lawn Doctor at 753-LAWN or go to LawnDoctorCashValley.com.
Calling all golfers, Birch Creek's punch passes are on sale at the spring sale price. Visit birchcreekgolf.com and purchase online or stop by the pro shop today. Birch Creek's punch passes never expire and are valid 7 days a week. So if you love golf, I invite you to visit Birch Creek today or go online at birchcreekgolf.com and purchase your discount punch pass. That's Birch Creek Golf Course in Smithfield.
Summer is just around the corner. Don't crank up your AC unit before getting it serviced. Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning is the team you should call for quality on-time service. If your system needs replaced, think York. York has the best warranties in the business with affordable financing options. Call Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning at 752-7272 or stop by their showroom west of DI. Online at advancedheating-ac.com.
Comfortable until you are. Advanced Heating and Air.
That's our time for today. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Thanks again to Charlie Schill for joining us, for Regan Zane of Aspire for taking some time for KVNU guest this hour. Thanks to Craig Hislop for conducting that interview. Thanks to Bill Walter for being here. Thanks to our callers. This is my Oscar speech. Do you get it? I'm gonna go slap Chris Rock now. That's our show for today. We'll be back tomorrow with the For the People movie show. A lot to talk about. Summer movie season is upon us. A lot of good stuff hitting the streaming services. Dog with Channing Tatum in theaters here in Logan is actually good. Yeah, it is. We'll talk about it all tomorrow with the For the People movie show at 5. Talk to Talk elections and campaigns before then. Some announcements today that kind of shake things up a little bit as far as legislative campaigns go for those up for re-election. Big show tomorrow is what I'm getting at. Please join us tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Dave Ramsey is next here on KVNU Logan.
Is right here on your radio. Breaking news and stimulating talk. KVNU Logan, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.